In this video, we are trying to find the slope of the polar curve at the given point. So what we want to do is find the derivative and plug the point into the derivative. Since we are working with a polar curve, dy dx is equivalent to dy d theta over dx d theta. Let's look at the next slide to see why. Notice that if you take dy d theta and divide it by dx d theta, dividing fractions is like multiplying by the reciprocal. So dy d theta times d theta dx will give you the dy dx that you are looking for. So that will give you the derivative of your polar curve, and then you would plug the point into it. Now, we need to find the derivative of y with respect to theta and x with respect to theta, but right now we just have an r. So we want to note that y is equal to r sine theta, so take your r and multiply it by sine theta. X is equal to r cosine theta, so take your r and multiply it by cosine theta. So since r is -1 minus sine theta, the y will become -1 minus sine theta times sine theta, and the x will become -1 minus sine theta times cosine theta. Now we take the derivative of y, and since we have a product, we're going to use the product rule. So the first was -1 minus sine theta, and the second was sine theta. So first times derivative of second, derivative of sine would be cosine. So now we have first times derivative of second plus the second function would be sine theta times the derivative of the first. The derivative of the -1 is 0. Derivative of negative sine theta is negative cosine theta. So that gives us dy d theta. For dx d theta, we also have a product, so we're going to use the product rule again. First function times derivative of cosine, which is negative sine. Second function, cosine, times derivative of first function, which is negative cosine. Now, we want to find the slope at 0 and at pi. I'm just going to do the example for 0. So we plug 0 in for all the thetas, and we get -1 minus sine of 0, so -1 minus 0, times, and then cosine at 0 is 1, plus sine at 0 is 0, and negative cosine at 0 is -1. So the numerator is going to become -1 times 1 plus 0. So the numerator is going to become a -1. Denominator, we're going to have -1 minus sine at 0. So -1 minus 0. When you plug 0 into sine, you get 0. When you plug 0 into cosine, you get 1. So we're going to have 1 times -1 there. So now we're going to have 0 plus -1. So we get -1 in the denominator, and -1 divided by -1 is +1. So the slope at 0 is 1.